Item next, House File 331, Representative Engen. I will move House File 331. There is an A1 amendment. Would you like the A1 amendment? Is that your amendment you'd like to put on before we get going here?
I don't believe that was my amendment, but it sure might be.
Okay.
Is that mine?
Okay, it's your amendment.
Awesome, perfect. Then yes, I would love that to be.
So I will move House File
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
331, and it will be to laid over for possible inclusion. I will move the H0331A1 amendment. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails. We now have House File 331 as amended. Two-year bills. First of all, are there any witnesses?
Not that I know of, Mr. Chair.
Okay, does the department wish to testify on this? Not at this time? Okay, please proceed with your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I've heard often that this is one of the most fun committees. Happy to be here with you today. Wanted to share House File 331, which ultimately is about three things. This is a pro-family bill, this is a pro-affordability bill, and this is a just making it easier for families and students, pro-education bill as well. So we want to deliver money right back into families' pockets, and the easiest way to do so is to eliminate this regressive sales tax on families and students as they go and try to purchase the necessary items that they need to learn. It's pretty simple. I know other states have done it. I tried doing this in the form of a sales tax holiday years ago, but I thought that because of some of the constraints and burdens that would place on not only families knowing what that time period is that they can go and purchase those items, but also our Department of Revenue as well, we thought we would just do it permanently. So that's what's before you today, and I hope that we can deliver that family-focused tax relief with this bill.
Okay, and members, if this looks familiar, or parts of it are familiar from last year, I believe we heard it too.
I believe that was infant care item sales tax exemption.
Okay,
Yep,
very good.
Similar, but not the
Yes,
same.
so we do, I guess, have some folks that like to testify. If you could come up and join Mr. Engen or Representative Engen at the table. If you could at least state your name and who you represent for the record, please, sir.
Chair Davids, Chair Gomez, members of the committee, my name is Alec Williams, and I'm a researcher for We Make Minnesota, a coalition of labor unions and grassroots organizations advocating for a fair tax code that funds the public services that Minnesotans rely on. Thank you for the opportunity to share our perspective on HF 331, which would exempt school supplies from the sales tax. We oppose this policy because it would offer minimal material benefit to the average family while hindering the state's ability to make strong investments that would benefit all Minnesotans. We appreciate the desire to help families, but feel targeted exemptions like this are not the best way to provide meaningful assistance. Minnesota already exempts significant categories of spending from the sales tax base, which forces our overall tax rate higher in order to raise adequate revenue. Expanding our exemptions even further would move us in the wrong direction. Even among exemptions aimed at lowering the cost of school supplies, HF 331 would be one of the most broadest policies in the country. 16 states offer sales tax holidays for school supplies, but those are not year-round like HF 331, typically lasting between a few days and a week. Additionally, much of the dollar value of these exemptions goes towards clothing, which is already exempt in Minnesota. Furthermore, Minnesota already offers tax relief for school supplies with the income-tested K-12 education subtraction and credit, which is targeted at families in need rather than providing a blanket exemption for everyone. This policy would affect all purchases of the goods listed, including sales made to adults well beyond school age. Exempting pens, pencils, folders, and other office supplies is arbitrary and creates a more porous and complicated tax code. Most importantly, the budgetary cost of this bill outweighs its benefits to families. A 2025 survey from Deloitte found that parents in Minneapolis expected to spend $682 per child on back-to-school items, with a majority of that spending going toward tech products and clothing, which, as I mentioned, is already exempt, with no more than $173 spent on the supplies exempted by this bill. Based on that estimate, this bill would save the average family in Minneapolis $11.89 per child at a cost of over $40 million in revenue each year. $11.89 in sales tax is not the reason that families are struggling. It's because of rising costs for things like childcare, health care, and housing, and this bill would weaken the state's ability to make investments to alleviate these burdens or to reduce the sales tax rate overall. One group that this policy might benefit in the short run is teachers who spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on classroom supplies every year. This might save them 7% on their school supplies, but it doesn't do anything about the 93% of out-of-pocket expenditures that we shouldn't be making them cover in the first place. If the goal is to help teachers with these costs, we could expand the deduction teachers get for out-of-pocket expenses. And policies like this would make these kind of personal sacrifices even more necessary. We believe that our tax policies should prioritize a strong and stable budget capable of funding the investments we need, rather than narrow exemptions that offer minimal relief at a significant cost. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Any questions for Mr. Williams? Anyone else would like to testify on the bill as amended? Okay, Representative Engen, let's wrap it up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, was there? I'm sorry. Representative
Well,
Gomez.
yeah, if
Yeah.
this is the time for
Okay,
questions.
time for member questions. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Time for member
Yeah, great.
questions.
Almost. Sorry, Representative Engen. You
Chair
almost got there.
Gomez.
Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So, first, I just want to go to the bill itself. The list of school supplies is on 1.9 to 1.14. It's incredibly broad. It includes basically every office supply that you can imagine. And so how is this, how will you ensure that you're only, allowing the exemption for school supplies instead of inputs to businesses? You know, when I go to the store and buy printer paper or whatever for my campaign, or any other number of ways that just consumption of office supplies listed here would happen.
Representative Engen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. While I don't think that it would be a bad thing if you also received that sales tax elimination, we're looking at lunch boxes, we're looking at tracing paper, we're looking at loose leaf ruled paper, colored pencils. These are things that families buy so that their kids can attend school and have the tools that they need to go and receive that world-class education that Minnesota promises to provide for them, that we haven't been fulfilling. And if we're looking at the overall dollar figure, the Department of Revenue provided some of their analysis in detail as to those items and what that cost savings would look like. And based off of the items that I've selected, it's $342 of that $687 to $782 annual burden on families for purchasing a child's necessary school supplies. So this is a targeted means of doing so. It's not going to break the bank. We're looking at $40-some million in the tails, and I think that is very doable after the $10.5 billion in new taxes that we've imposed on families here in the state in the past 3 years, on top of the $18.5 billion surplus that people don't know where it went, on top of increased property taxes, and on top of that, over $9 billion in fraud. This is very simple. This is a family-focused tax relief policy. This isn't about a handout to a corporation. I don't want that either. I want families to have more money in their pockets, and this might be a simple way of doing so. I know that the testifier invoked the tax credit, but I don't know many families that store receipts in some drawer and then send them into the department hoping that they're going to get their money back. In fact, I believe if I could get a nonpartisan answer to this, I believe it's less than 20% of families that qualify for that tax credit that actually do reclaim that. And so this is a means of putting that money right back into their pocket immediately without hoping that they're going to keep those receipts in some drawer somewhere and have them all perfectly filed up for us.
Chair Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's not 45 million in the tails. We're looking at the, and the answer to that was there is no way to ensure that this is actually for school supplies and not office supplies. I just want to make that clear. So this means every pen that anybody buys in the state of Minnesota, any pencil, any, envelope is exempt from sales tax. It's a big, narrowing of the sales tax base in Minnesota. And it doesn't cost $45 million in the tails. It costs $93 million in the tails. And that is a significant amount of money for something that, that is not actually at all targeted to what it says it's targeted to. I'm just going through the revenue analysis detail. So if there's $342 of average spending per child in 2025, if you're in, I think St. Paul's the highest sales tax environment in the state, and it's 9.875%. So then your average savings per kid is $35. which is nothing to turn your nose up at. I think that, people really are experiencing incredible, economic burden in this economy. So it's not to diminish the importance of getting $35 for a family with a kid. But because of the way that this is written, in that $93 million that it's going to cost in the tails, it's not just the $35 per kid that's included in that cost. It's also, if we don't even need to get into we had fun talking about platinum baby carriages last time you were here when you
Gold-plated
brought
bassinets,
your baby supplies bill. So we don't need to talk about the $1 million pens. We can just, if you were a fan of the JFK Mont Blanc pen.
Mont Blanc.
Yes, and you wanted to go buy one of those. $1,500 for the, I know you like that burgundy one and the green one. Are they like $1,500?
A piece.
A piece. So
We can
if you're
exempt
going to
those.
buy the Mont Blanc pen in St. Paul, you'd get $148 of tax relief or, So in this case, somebody who can spend $1,500 on a pen is getting 3 times as much as a family who's buying the average amount of school supplies for their kid. And that's what's included in that $93 million. And so what we talk about in this committee is an analysis of, because a lot of times people think of tax changes as, oh, this is just $46 million. It's kind of like it's free. It's foregone revenue. It's actually, it's spending. We have to think about it as spending. We have to think about it as, would you want to spend almost $95 million making sure that the person who buys a $1,500 pen or an $800 pencil gets 2 or 3 times as much tax relief as the purported target of this policy? Is it actually doing what it says it's supposed to do? Is there another way to do it besides a blanket tax exemption? These are the considerations that we have to make. It's how you make decisions about a budget, and it's how you make decisions about a tax code. And so this is, it's just very expansive. It moves us in the wrong direction as far as we talked about contractions to the sales tax base, a lot of times drive up sales tax rates. And so, this is an expensive, gimmicky solution that doesn't actually solve the problem that it sets out to solve, which is the affordability crisis facing families in Minnesota. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Mangan, to the comments.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. I don't know a single person who has a $1,500 pen
Yeah,
or a
you do.
$600 pencil. If you'd like to include that into your exemption,
Chair, but yes, you do.
if you'd like to include that in your list of non-exempt items, I'd be happy to do so. But I find it incredibly disingenuous that this is not somehow putting money back into the family's pockets.
Mr. Chair,
Chair Gomez.
thank you. Are we allowed to impugn motives in committee? I know we're not allowed to do it on the floor.
No.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
This isn't a
Chair.
gimmick either.
Disingenuous is it's not disingenuous, it's numbers that I'm presenting to you. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Mangan.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is not a gimmick bill. Thank you.
Okay. I've got Joachim Lee, and then Roach. Representative Joachim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm sorry to speak after Chair Gomez because you did such a good job. As the Education Finance Chair, we are tasked to funding K through 12 education across the state. And we've tried to dig them out of a hole of 20 years of underinvestment and started to do that in 23 and 24, but we still have a way to go. And what I hear from parents and what I hear from schools is they would like to see more money into our K through 12 education system and on the formula. Just for perspective, $93 million is about 1.25% increase on the formula. It's about $70 million to put 1% on the formula. And that would be huge for our schools. So I would rather see us spend money there as the Education Finance Chair, just food for thought.
Thank you. And I could see working on this as we go down the road, putting some limits on what you could spend on various items. I see the only one is the book bags here. But, yeah, okay. We're going to go to Lee Roach, and then we're going to lay it over. Representative Lee.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I think there's been a lot of discussion already about how expensive this bill is. but also want to refer back to the testifier who suggested, there are already other education credits that we have in statute, which are actually much less expensive. And so, if we really do want to help families who have children in school, we could take $40 million and, make those credits or subtractions much more generous. Right now, the K-12 education subtraction only costs about $14 million a year. And so I think the concern with the scope of this bill is that we could do so much more with so much less, right? And when Chair Gomez talks about spending, right, we need to make sure that we're good stewards of taxpayer dollars and also making sure that bills do what they're supposed to do. Also, I just want to share, my family collected receipts to make sure that we could claim our K-12 education credit, so someone who does that. And I don't think that's an uncommon thing for Minnesota families to go shopping for school supplies and clothing, before school starts and to keep those tax receipts. That's actually something we ask families to do. And that's why, when we look at putting money literally back into families' pockets, Chair Gomez pioneered prepayments for the child tax credit, right? We just heard from Mr. Willett in the tax incident study that the child tax credit was actually one of the most progressive things that we did, and we are also giving money to families, where we're prepaying that because we understand families cannot wait until the end of the year to get their money back. And so these are all ways that we can actually put money back into pockets of mom and dads rather than, having blanket tax exemptions, which narrow our tax base and is not good tax policy. Thank you.
Comments on that?
Yes,
Representative Vanga.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like nonpartisan, if they could, to let us know what percentage of families eligible for the K-12 tax credit do, in fact, receive those tax credits. Is that something that we could find out?
Who would like that one? I'd say let's follow up on that.
Follow up?
We'll get that, yeah, and we'll
Okay,
make the
perfect.
committee aware of it.
One
Representative
more.
Roach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Representative Engen, for bringing this forward. We just saw a presentation here that talked about the sales tax burden on our lower decile group, which is 22%, the highest of, ratio per their income. And I see here an exemption for sales tax on that exact group. So I guess I don't understand what the holdup is or what the problem would be, because this is directly putting money back into the pockets of people who pay a higher percentage of sales tax. So if we really want to help people, why are we not trying to help people? It sounds as though people believe the government does better with their money than they can do with their money. So I don't know. I appreciate Engen. I know this has been a battle you've been fighting for a couple years, and appreciate your work on it.
Thank you, Representative Roach. If you'd like to wrap up, House File 331 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members, for the discussion. I genuinely do appreciate it. I'm not of the belief that the government needs to profit off of the necessities of children and families when they're going back to school. Is this as targeted as we want it to be? Maybe not. I'd love to sit down and we can work alongside those lines to find something that you'd be amenable to. But this is a pro-family, a very focused form of putting money back into pockets of families. That's what I'm trying to do here. That's what I've been trying to do here. Not trying to eliminate taxes on $1,500 pens, which apparently one person buys.
Several of them.
Several. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. But I'd like to help out families in any way that we can, especially in these times. So thank you very much for hearing my bill.
And thank you very much for presenting your bill. I will move that House File 331 as amended be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus tax bill. Thank you, Representative Vanga. Thank you very much.